There's never been a better time to be a fresh squidlet ready to drag yourself out of the ocean and begin life on two wheels. Motorcycles keep getting more powerful, more advanced, or more capable, and beginner bikes are not exempt. The beginner bike category gets new heavy hitters each year that offer competitive packages aimed to bring new riders into the fold. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of the best new beginner bikes that are currently available or coming soon to a dealer floor near you. This video is proudly sponsored by our friends over at Rockform. Let's jump right in. The first motorcycles we look at today are the brand new Triumph Speed 400 and Scrambler 400X. Until the debut of these motorcycles, the aspiring Euroboy was kinda SOL when looking at a first motorcycle. European manufacturers like Triumph, Ducati, and Aprilia have never prioritized developing motorcycles aimed at beginners in regards to performance or price tag. Even less powerful bikes like the Ducati Scrambler Icon or Triumph Bonneville T100 would be considered prohibitively expensive for many new and young riders with a tight budget. So Triumph's entrance into the beginner bike category with the Speed 400 and Scrambler X is really quite exciting. The Speed 400 is a nimble and lightweight roadster that's powered by a 398cc single-cylinder engine making 40 horsepower and 28 foot-pounds of torque. The use of a single-cylinder engine in this bike is pretty interesting, as parallel twins seem to be the norm for most beginner bikes in this class and most retro roadsters in Triumph's lineup. This grunty little thumper should offer a riding experience similar to bikes like the Duke 390 from KTM or the Husqvarna Svartpillen. The Speed 400 was designed by Triumph from the ground up, built around the frame that uses a tubular steel design with a bolt-on subframe. This bike uses an upside-down 43mm fork and a single rear monoshock with preload adjustability. The Speed 400 rides on 17-inch cast aluminum wheels paired with Metzler tires. In retro style, this bike offers limited tech using an analog speedometer with an LCD screen. All the better for it, in my opinion. Unlike bikes from companies like CF Moto, Triumph doesn't need to shower these entry-level bikes with electronic farkles to prove its value. They instead rely on premium Triumph feeling and build quality. Size and ergonomics that are agreeable to a rider's size are critical for new motorcyclists to feel comfortable on their first bike. The Speed 400 has a really neutral and upright riding position with a wide flat handlebar and mid-mounted foot pegs. This bike has a 31-inch seat height and a 375-pound curb weight, which is actually pretty light for what it is. Pricing has not been announced yet on the Speed 400 or Scrambler X, although Triumph has expressed an eagerness to offer highly competitive pricing, so seeing this bike come in at under $6,000 would be huge. Also, I think it's cool that they made the engine look like they took their parallel twin motor and just kind of lopped half of it off. It looks nice. The Scrambler 400X is built on the same foundation as the Speed 400. It uses the same frame, engine, and gearbox, although Triumph has modified the Scrambler 400 to be more suited for light off-road duty or cafe cruising, and it looks really cool. The Scrambler 400X also uses a 43mm upside-down fork, although the suspension travel has been increased by 10mm, lending itself to 150mm or just shy of 6 inches of total travel. The rear monoshock received the same treatment with 150mm of total travel, 20mm longer than the shock in the Speed 400. In addition to the tweaks in the suspension, the Scrambler uses a 19-inch front end in the front and a 17 out back. These wheels use a different 10-spoke design than the Speed 400, but are also made of cast aluminum, which is interesting when most Scrambler or adventure bikes intended for off-road use wire-spoked wheels. But this is kind of like adventure in quotations, right? Paired up with these 17 9-inch wheel setup are Metzler dual sport tires. As I mentioned already, these bikes are aimed to compete with bikes like the Duke 390 or the Svartpillen 401. The Scrambler 400X could also be compared to the Royal Enfield Scram 411, which shares the same old school retro ethos with a thumpy single-cylinder engine, although the air-cooled engine in the Scram is way down on power compared to the Triumph and is just not nearly as evolved. Overall, it's cool to see Triumph coming into the beginner bike segment. Comment down below if you think we should get one of these as a new beginner bike giveaway motorcycle next year. Once you get set up with your beginner bike, you're going to want to start accumulating motorcycle accessories to make your bike your own. You can install frame sliders, carbon fiber farkles, or even a Gatling gun exhaust tip, but nothing is going to improve your riding experience like a Rockform handlebar mount will. Rockform makes the best cell phone cases and mounts for motorcyclists hand down. They've got cases for every phone and mounts for every style of bike, so you can get set up and ready to ride. Having access to your phone is pivotal for navigation on long trips or avoiding traffic during rush hour. And Rockform's MagSafe drop-tested phone cases integrate seamlessly with the mounting systems to keep your phone in view while on the road. Plus, they've got vibration dampeners, car mounts, belt clips, you name it. Seriously, I've got a Rockform phone mount on my phone, and I toss it onto my tool chest all the time when I'm listening to music or I just need to look up something really quick. It's really convenient to just be able to put your phone somewhere that's magnetic. Really nice. It really is that simple. If you use the code YN25 at rockform.com, you receive 25% off of your order. Again, that is rockform.com with the code YN25 at checkout for 25% off. Thanks, to Rockform for the continued support. Now back to the video. Another exciting new beginner motorcycle for 2024 is the Kawasaki Eliminator 450. This bike is a brand new addition to Kawasaki's lineup, although the name has been recycled a few times over the years. Originally, the Eliminator was given to the ZL900 sold by Kawasaki in the 1980s. This cruiser was built around the engine from the ZX900 Ninja. By the early 2000s, the name was repurposed and attributed to Kawasaki's entry-level cruisers, which, let's be real, the word Eliminator is kind of intense for a beginner bike. I would love to see an H2-derived cruiser called the Eliminator. That would be awesome. Although, to be fair, they should make an H2-derived cruiser that's based on the Vulcan and call it the Nerd Destroyer. The new 2024 Eliminator is somewhat of an amalgamation of both iterations of the previous Eliminator motorcycles. At the heart of this bike is the Ninja 400 engine that has had the stroke lengthened to give an overall displacement of 451 cc's. This increase in stroke gives the Eliminator a bump in low-end torque, a riding experience that is well suited for its muscle-bound drag bike aesthetic. Despite inheriting the name of a cruiser born in the 1980s, the 2024 Eliminator is a truly modern bike that uses a trellis frame as opposed to a tubular frame like you might expect on a more retro-inspired bike. The current horsepower figures are not available for this motorcycle, but given the Ninja 400 makes 48 horsepower, the Eliminator should be sitting right around that same figure. Torque figures are provided though, where Kawasaki claims this bike has 32 foot-pounds to work with. Given this information, the Eliminator should be slightly outperforming the Honda Rebel 500, and I guarantee you that's the market that Kawasaki's going for. Being a beginner bike, this motorcycle is working with some fairly rudimentary components like a store brand right side up fork and dual rear shocks. Stylistically, this motorcycle is a pretty cool addition to the cruiser market. It doesn't look like a Harley-Davidson ripoff, and it isn't designed in the same edgy, blacked-out bobber style that most new cruisers have. It looks more like a sporty muscle cruiser, which I think is pretty cool. The Eliminator is rolling on aluminum-spoked wheels with an 18-inch front and a 16-inch in the rear. This bike has a low 29-inch seat height, which makes it great for beginners, and weighs 386 pounds. Again, which makes it a little bit lighter than the Rebel 500, which is the clearest and direct competitor to the Eliminator. This bike does have some high-end finishes as well, like LED lighting, a digital instrument cluster, and smartphone connectivity. On the base model, ABS is optional for extra $300, and if you're beginner riders, I think you should get them. There is also an SE trim where ABS comes standard and it features a headlight cowl, fork gaiters, and a USB-C charging outlet. I actually saw one of these in person the other day at my local dealership. They look really cool in the flesh. I like the orange one a lot. The 2024 Eliminator has an MSRP of $6,649, and the Eliminator SE will run you $7,249. Fast boys, rejoice! We talked about this one earlier on the Yamcast, but we're going to bring it back. Forget the influx of Scramblers and Neo Retro Cafe bikes. Beginners are now able to save up their lunch money and buy a bespoke Italian race bike built for baby squids. Aprilia has recently unveiled the RS 457, following the success of the RS 660, a middleweight parallel twin motorcycle that has found itself perfectly in the Goldilocks zone of sporty track readiness with street-friendly power and rideability. Expanding on this ethos, Aprilia has slipped their greasy Italian sausages right into the beginner sport bike segment with the RS 457. This motorcycle is powered by a 457cc parallel twin, making a claimed 47 horsepower. This bike uses an aluminum twin spar frame distilled down from their experiences on the racetrack. The frame isn't the only part of the chassis that's built for the track. The RS 457 has been stated as having fully adjustable suspension as well, using a 41mm upside down fork in the front and a monoshock in the rear. This bike is also using bi-bree brake, which is Brembo's budget-friendly option that's found on many beginner-oriented motorcycles today, like the KTM RC390. Just like its larger siblings, the RS 457 is also packed with tech features. If you ever felt the technological rider aids were superfluous on the RS 660, they are even more out of place on a bike making just 47 horsepower. But hey, Aprilia has the tech from the RS V4 race bike. I'm sure they figure they might as well just throw it on the 457 as well. This tech package includes 3 rider modes, including Rain, Eco, and Sport. Each ride mode adjusts traction control and power delivery, but leaves the top horsepower intact, which is smart considering there's only 47 ponies to begin with. The RS 457 has a 5-inch TFT display and a backlit handlebar control, which contribute to the premium feel. This motorcycle has a claimed 350-pound dry weight, so after all the essential fluids and fuels, it will not be lighter than a Ninja 400, which is making about the same power and will cost less and be lighter. We talked about this. Ninja 400 is still goated. I'm sorry. It just is. The RS 457 seems as if it would be more in line with a bike like the ZX4RR that is aimed at track day and racing enthusiasts more than the average beginner rider. Although it is cool that there's an option for a beginner rider with the right financial endowment who lusts after an exciting Italian racing machine instead of the ubiquitous parallel twin Japanese sport bike. Pricing has not been confirmed for the RS 57 yet, but it is speculated to cost less than $7,500. I'm going to estimate that this bike is going to cost $8,199 on the showroom floor. Seriously, it's got a ton of tech, aluminum frame, evolved engine. I mean, the ZX4RR is $91.99, something like that, so they can't be that cheap. But listen, speaking of money, what if I told you that the sticker price sits for $5,500? You could get a motorcycle that would redline your happiness gauge. Well, that is the promise CF Moto is making with their new 450 SS. This motorcycle isn't brand spanking new, as I've already had the chance to ride one, and there are quite a few out there in the wild, but it is a new enough entry into the beginner bike class that it will still be making waves in a head-to-head shootouts using other comparable bikes. The 450 SS is CF Moto's answer to the Ninja 400, which everybody's been trying to answer since 2017, and to be quite frank, nobody has had any answers for it. It's still the best bike in the category. This one, however, uses a 450cc parallel twin engine with a 270-degree crankshaft design that's putting down 50 horsepower and 29 foot-pounds of torque. The upside-down fork is non-adjustable, and the monoshock in the rear features preload adjustability. CF Moto has always been good about bringing high-quality parts to their motorcycles, and the 450 SS is no exception with its Brembo brake caliper in the front. Not a buy-breed budget brake caliper, but a true 4-piston radial-mounted Brembo. It's crazy. The 450 SS has CF Moto's standard suite of tech components like a 5-inch TFT display and LED lighting all around. I had the chance to test ride this bike a few months back, and CF Moto actually gave us a loaner bike to compare against the Ninja 400 both on street and track, and I'm genuinely impressed with everything this motorcycle has to offer. It has really good power delivery and handles really nice. As I said in my first ride review, the only thing that holds this bike back is that it's from a Chinese motorcycle called CF Moto, which still has stigma surrounding reliability or political connotations. But I do want to shout it out again. The Ninja 400 is goated. Nothing has beat it yet, folks. I'm serious. But as it stands, and based on my experience with it, if it were sold under the name of a Japanese brand and everything else the same, it would probably be the best beginner sport bike for the street that you could get. It's really good. It makes 50 horsepower, weighs 370 pounds, and costs just $5,500. That is truly a bargain with everything you get with this machine. Expanding out on this engine and chassis from the 450 SS, CF Moto is also bringing the 450 NK to the US. Now, this one I think is actually going to hit pretty hard. This motorcycle is the naked variant of their 450cc sport bike. If the 450 SS had its sight aimed right at the Ninja 400, the 450 NK is gunning for the Z400. This motorcycle is making the same 50 horsepower and 29 foot-pounds of torque as the SS, meaning it's outperforming the Z400 as well, but just by a little bit. Combined with the Brembo caliper, the high-end tech features, the included ABS, and the 450 NK is going to give the rest of the entry-level naked bike market a run for its money. You can kind of think of this as like a baby MT-07. If you think the MT-07 is a little too much bike, this is a pretty good deal. This motorcycle takes many of the styling cues from the 800 NK, CF Moto's middleweight naked bike adapted from the KTM Duke 790. Official pricing for the 450 NK has not been announced yet, but considering the price for the 450 SS, we can assume it will fall somewhere between $5,000 and $5,500. Another motorcycle that's been leaked by CF Moto is the 450 SRS, which is a higher spec version of the 450 SS. The SRS is shown with a single-sided swing arm, larger rear brake disc, and modifications to the exhaust location. In addition to the physical changes of the 450 SRS, it also features traction control, an updated display, and a new adjustable rear shock. There are a lot of new beginner bikes coming out, and I'm really excited to see it. I just want to see more people getting on bikes and having fun because motorcycles are super awesome. There are other beginner motorcycles that have received significant styling changes for the 2024 model year as well, like the KLX 300, Honda Shadow Phantom, as well as the new line of Royal Enfield Bullet 350s. Which bikes are you most excited to see? If you're already riding, which bike do you wish you knew existed based on what you know now and you wish you had started on instead? Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will catch you later. Fact: a group of flamingos is called a flamboyance. Goodbye.